Hi, and welcome to The Returned. Here's to everything we'll discover together. Hi, and welcome to The Returned. Today, I am honored to have Philip Hasheider, a Wisconsin farmer, prolific writer, and near-death experiencer, whose stories made headlines after he was clinically dead for 6 minutes in 2017. During those profound minutes, Philip journeyed to a timeless and infinite dimension and encountered a radiant golden sphere that symbolized the divine creator, connecting with him to an infinite web of universes. Philip, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well, thank you, Melina. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and with your audience.
You're welcome. Philip, could you give us a brief introduction on who you were before your profound experience, please?
Well, prior to my experience in October of 2015, uh, I had been farming. I still am farming with my wife, Mary. I grew up on a farm. I spent all of my almost 74 years on a farm and worked with many different species of livestock. So my background is agrarian, and I grew up on a farm that was a fifth generation of my family,
Wow.
and we try to provide as wholesome of a existence for the animals we have and had in the
Oh,
past. And uh, essentially, I got into writing because it was one of my interests, and uh, most of my books deal with agriculture subjects, local histories, family stories, that sort of thing. And so this was what I was doing prior to that early morning in October.
let's hear it.
Well, that early morning in October was pretty much like every other morning on our farm. However, at the time I was walking out into our pasture to check on our 27 head of grazing beef cattle, I didn't have the faintest idea that by the end of the day, I would become an expert in dying. Yeah, but I would also become an expert on hope and what that
Mm,
means in a very specific sense. So that morning, as I was walking out to check the cattle. We have a roughly a 50-acre pasture. I got out there, and if anyone has worked with livestock, they know that rest time is really good, especially in the morning. So they were all lying down in the grass, and I got about 200 or so feet from them, and one of them jumped up and looked at me and just stared at me for about 2 seconds and took off took off running across the field. Went about 300 feet, turned around and looked at me. Well, all of that commotion got the rest of them excited, and they got up very quickly. They all looked at me, and they all took running across the field and stopped to see her, or
mm,
right alongside of her. Well, I thought that's really, really strange because that had never happened before. That hadn't happened the morning before when I was out there. It didn't happen the morning before after that. And subsequently, as time went on, obviously I survived my collapse, but uh, it never happened again. So there
mm.
was something that morning that they
They sensed.
observed that I had no idea what they were spooked about. I mean, it was like they saw a ghost. Well,
Hmm.
anyway, I had seen what I needed to see because there were none of the animals needed individual attention, so I turned around and I walked back to our farmyard. Coincidentally, that morning, I had, previously arranged for our car's tires to be replaced. So I had to drive into our local village, which is 12 miles away, to the business that would do that. I usually, tossed in my gym bag because if I had a chance, I would stop at our, local hospital's, rehab fitness room for an exercise, which I had been doing for the previous 5 or 6 months. And so I drove in, and it was one of those mornings looking back where you wonder what the choice that you didn't take might have occurred. But the choice I did take was, I have plenty of time to get in a little exercise uh, section before I need to get over to have the tires changed. I was in too early. So instead of turning right to the business to get the tires changed, I turned left to go to
Mm.
our hospital's rehab fitness room. So I got there, I parked the car, went downstairs, changed clothes, came back up, said hi to the staff, did a few stretches, and sat down at the arm curl machine bench. Did my 20 modest arm curls to start out, and I stood up next to the bench, and the strangest thing happened. I looked down at both of my forearms because they were tingling, both of them, like, they had fallen asleep,
Mhm.
and I thought, "Well, this is really odd." Well, that happened to be the last thought I had for at least 8 hours. What happened is I collapsed right there, but almost instantaneously,
Wow.
I went from standing next to that bench, looking at my forearms, to finding myself in what I'm gonna describe as a completely different dimension. Now, I've studied what happened to me, and I've tried to find human words that will express as closely as what I experienced so that other people can understand it.
Mhm.
Well, I instantaneously found myself in this other dimension. Yet I wasn't afraid. I thought, this is really interesting. And I found myself floating on what I'll describe as some sort of a raft, small, just for me. And I was floating not on water waves, but I was floating on energetic waves that were coming towards me. And not only coming towards me, they were passing through me. And I thought, huh, if I can give you a thought of what I recall from that particular moment, it was like, wow. And the sensation I had, if I can transfer a spiritual sensation to a human body, was one of complete acceptance. It
Mm.
was one of complete love. It was one of complete welcome. And it felt, yeah, I mean, it really felt good. Now, you have to remember that at that point, I still did not know or remember that I had collapsed back at the fitness center. I was just here, and it just seemed natural.
Mhm.
Well, as I was looking at these waves coming towards me, I happened then to look up, as we understand looking at a level plane and then looking up, and I saw what I will describe as a golden glowing, pulsing, energetic form that filled the whole edges of this infinite dimension that I was in. It was I've used the example, if you pack 100 million suns into it, It was
Huh.
that brilliant, but it wasn't so brilliant that I couldn't see it, and it wasn't so, uh, hot that I couldn't touch it because I could reach out and touch it like it wanted me to merge with it. And, again, I didn't think there was anything unusual about that.
Wow.
So, after a few, what I will call moments, which could have been years in that dimension, because I soon learned there is no time there. I decided to look to my right, as we understand right and left here, front and back. I looked to my right, and what I saw, I can best describe as an infinite multitude of dimensions and universes suspended out in this eternal space. The best way I can explain it is if you take everything we know about our universe that we exist in right now, the billions of light years of distance, one direction or another direction, all the galaxies, the stars, the planets, everything. And you take all of this dimension and you compress it down to a single sheet of paper, like, and then you suspend it out here over in this eternal space. And then you
Hmm.
take another one and you compress that and you put it right next to it. And you do this to the next one. And you do also go laterally, vertically, crosswise, forward, backward. There were all these multitudes of universes and dimensions suspended in this eternal space. But yet, each one of them had an energetic filament that reached up and attached to what I'll describe as a spider web like matrix that surrounded this golden, glowing sphere. And
Wow.
it too was pulsing welcome, love, acceptance, infinite knowledge into each one of these other universes suspended in this space. And I realized that I can't explain how, but I realized at that moment that what I was looking at was what I'll call the source of all creation, the divine creator, the God essence. Pick whatever word resonates with you or anyone else as to what a supreme knowledge and love is. And so again, I didn't think this was unusual. So sitting there, I remember that uh why don't I look behind me? Because it'd be like going on a road trip and not taking a look at what some of the side roads have to offer. So I turned around, as we understand, front and back, and looked. And what I saw was infinity. And that's because the emulsion of eternity acted like a magnifying glass so that the farther I looked into it, the clearer everything became. That's what I saw. It was an endless eternity. Now, since then, I've struggled with that because as humans, we're conditioned to beginnings and ends, and that usually has to do with our existence here.
Uh-huh.
But I would like any of your viewers to consider the possibility that we can stretch distances, we can stretch times to past boundaries of what we normally acknowledge here.
Mhm.
Well, having seen that, I again, I still did not know that I was lying back on the floor in our hospital's fitness and rehab room, where there were, come to find out later, there were a dozen people furiously working on me to get me my heart restarted. Had I known that at the time I was in this other dimension, I couldn't have called them and told them, you know, "Don't bother. This is great. Why would I want to leave this?" Um, I couldn't tell them that hey, if you didn't get my heart restarted, don't feel bad. I mean, I'm pretty happy where I am. So it it was like sitting on this raft. It was like I was being marinated with liquid love. It just
Mm.
I have not had that warm of a feeling here. Now we've had hot weather in Wisconsin last 2 weeks, but it's not the same warmth. This is a warmth of deep, deep satisfaction, deep acceptance, deep welcome, deep love. And it was interesting because bringing that back is something I'd like to mention later. But when I was feeling this, I had no sense of time. And people have asked me, "Well, how long do you think you were there?" Well, in a place that has no concept of time, to me, to explain would be like centuries. It felt like I was there centuries. I mean, it had stretched. Time had stretched. I mean, because there is no time. And come to find out afterwards that it was a little over 6 minutes. I couldn't believe it because it just felt I was there like a long, 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 long time. Well, so one minute I'm sitting there observing this, and then instantaneously I was gone, and I was back here in my body, and that was because that was at the point that the restart of my heart.
Okay.
So there were so I had been on the longest journey I'd ever taken in 6 minutes, and I came back with an experience that would take me a very long time to understand, and it would take me even longer to explain it. And
Mhm.
still, it would be another 8 months before I would be given the reason as to why I finally came back here. So it was an experience that has many facets to it because of the human contemplation of it. And that's something that I've tried to explain as I understand it now. And I'll tell you one of the first realizations I had after, I mean, and it took me months to recover from my collapse. But one of the first realizations I had was that uh, the bodies we have are just the sum of its parts. I mean, yeah, I had two arms and two legs and two eyes and uh, all the parts standing next to the bench as I had when I was lying dead on the floor, except for one thing. And this is something I failed to mention in my description of this golden sphere. But I saw these little jets of sparks coming out all over the surface of this goddesses. And I understood that at some point that was me because
Mm.
when I was lying on the floor dead versus when I was standing next to the machine, the part that was missing was that inner essence, that inner spirit. You can call it the soul, whatever term works for you. That was gone, and that's where I was. I was in that. I had left my physical body, and I was gone to this other dimension to um, exist.
After coming back to your body and you kind of, I guess, recovering in the hospital, I'm assuming. Did you have a hard time with kind of integrating back into life? Like, or even just be like, "What was that?"
Short answer, yes, big problems.
Yeah.
Um, and I can explain a little bit. The the first recognition I had of actually coming to or phasing in. Now, the ambulance driver said I was talking with them on the way down to the hospital, yeah, which was 30 miles away. Uh, there were people in the emergency room said that I was talking with them, answering questions. I I have absolutely no recall of that. Even now, I've tried to think back, but there's nothing that sticks. It was like wiped out.
Mhm.
Uh, the first recognition I had of being back here for me was when I looked at a well, first of all, I saw Mary, my wife, standing at the end of the gurney at my feet, rubbing them, and I couldn't figure out what she was doing there because she had a full time job in Madison, which is where I was at the time of the ambulance took me. She had a full time job, and I knew that I had been out in the field and she wasn't there. So what is she doing here? And then there was the realization of what am I doing here? And our son and our daughter were off to the left. And I thought, boy, I must be dreaming this. Then I happened to look at, or there was a clock on the wall and it said 8 o'clock. And there was some nurse next to me and he was apparently asking me questions. I don't recall any of them. Uh, who was writing stuff down. And I said, that can't be right. And he said, what? I said, it's not 8 o'clock. It's 11 o'clock. He said, no, it's 8 o'clock. I said, well, time doesn't run backwards, at least not here. And he said, well, it's 8 o'clock at night. Boy, I tell you, talk about confusion. I call
I
it an
bet.
interdimensional confusion because I
Right?
was still back at the other dimension and I was all of a sudden found out that I'm here. And aside from seeing my wife, Mary, my first reaction was, "Oh, crap. What am I doing back here?" But I didn't say that out loud, and, I learned very quickly not to say too much more because I
Oh,
knew
yeah.
some things were probably not gonna make any sense, at least to me. So that was the first indication that something had happened. I still didn't know what, but things were really different.
How did you end up finding out what happened? How did that open up for you?
Well, it took several months of just quiet contemplation. I did not tell anybody because I couldn't form the words. I really struggled trying to uh, find a word to. The images came fairly soon after, I'd say within a month or so. Uh, but finding the words to explain what that looked like uh, was really difficult. Mary said that, and I have vague recollection of this over the next couple of months. She said, whenever we were out, I would always be looking for a color to
Hmm.
match the golden pulsing god essence that I saw. And actually, uh, one of the closest that I found, because there is nothing in this dimension that you can equate it. I mean, exactly. There are similarities. It's kind of like when you take a picture of something or you paint it, you don't quite get what nature is. You don't quite get
Mhm.
the preciseness of it,
Mhm.
even in a photograph. But this picture above me was taken one morning by Mary on our farm, and interestingly, this one and the photo on the cover of my book are the two that come the closest that I've seen yet. So I've given up looking because I don't think I'm going to find it, at least not here. I'll find it again
Mhm.
when I leave, but that's a whole
Absolutely.
topic. But it was that richness, that depth of richness that emotes knowledge, an infinite knowledge. It emotes love, a deep, compassionate love for everyone, everything that's created, and try to paint that.
Philip, why do you think that you had that near-death experience? Like, why do you think that you were taken to that beautiful space?
That was a question I struggled with for a long time, and as I mentioned, it would be 8 months before I was given the answer as to why I was here. Now, I want to point out, first of all, that I don't consider myself any more special than anyone else who's living
Mhm.
around here. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a saint. Um, I'm not a seer. I'm just another human being trying to navigate this lower density of existence that we have while I'm here. I mean, I wasn't, because I had this extraordinary experience, I wasn't given a free pass. I still have to pay my bills. I
Of
still have
course.
to deal with people I probably don't want to deal with. I still have to follow the rules of the road. So, I still have to do what everyone else does. But
Mhm.
the answer to your question was something that I struggled with a long time. Why? Why did it happen in the fitness room and not 1 hour earlier out in our pasture with the cattle, where there would be no help at all because Mary wouldn't be home for 6 or 8 more hours. And then if she did come home and didn't see me, she'd have to look for me. Well, where do you look in a 50-acre pasture? So by the time somebody else would have been able to help out there, it would have been far too late for me. So that was the question that I struggled with the most. Why did it happen? Where it did? When it did? With all that help available, there were 5 hospital technicians in the area. The local ambulance was right across the street. So I had like I said, there were a dozen people in there working,
Mhm.
well,
Mhm.
coordinated working with me to revive me. Um, but the answer came out of basically out of the blue, and it was thanks to Mary because uh, I was struggling between October and the next August. I was struggling with the medications. It was creating some unbalance with me,
Mhm. Mhm.
which leads to another whole topic of how an NDE affects other people in your family. Because Mary had everything dumped on her lap the instant I
Right.
collapsed. I mean,
Right.
we had cattle to take care of. Uh, the farm work just got let go because there was no way to handle it. And then when I did return home, she wouldn't trust me outside by
Oh.
myself because not that I'd wander off, but she needed to know that I was okay. So
Mhm.
she was burning candle at three ends, and it was a big stress on both of us. Well, that one particular morning, I came down steps. I mean, I usually slept in late because I was just exhausted. Came down the steps and plopped myself into the chair, and I went in of our kitchen table. Mary was at the other end. She had a notepad, and it was something she kept by her nightstand, and in case she had something she wanted to write down in the middle of the night. Well, she waited until I was ready, and then she said, "Do you want to hear what you said last night?" I said, I don't remember saying anything. She said, well, you did. And I wrote it down because I thought it might be important.
Oh,
And
wow.
I said, okay, what did I say? Well, she said, you sat up in bed and you were mumbling and I couldn't understand anything you were saying. And then you stopped and then you started to shake your head from side to side saying, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And she asked me, well, what don't you believe? And she said, my answer was the reason I came back. So she asked, why did you come back? And I said, I was told to come back to be a conduit of hope for those who don't have any and those who don't think there is any. And then she paused and I said, okay, what else? She said, no, that was it. You laid back down and went to sleep. But the minute she said that, I had my answer that I had been seeking for the previous 8 months as to why it happened in that particular spot with all those people available to help me and not 1 hour earlier out in our pasture
Mhm,
when there wouldn't have been anybody. So then a lot of things fell into place and made sense for me. And once that happened, then I was able to really examine it and to know that what I experienced was true.
mhm,
Now I've been asked by a nurses group I spoke with and other people. I mean, do you think it could have been a dream? And I said, well, yeah, that's possible, but I don't believe it to be a dream. I mean, we all have dreams. I think everybody has a dream, and it's usually at night. You wake up in the morning and you get snippets of it, or maybe you get a length of it, or maybe you can remember some events of the dream. But typically, I don't think people remember the whole dream.
mhm.
So,
Not only that, but you were standing beside your body, kind of like going, "What?" Like, that normally isn't what a dream does either, right?
well, that's true.
Mhm,
And the thing about what I experienced is that whenever I think back to it, I can see the whole thing again, and it never changes. It's always the same. Now, people can say, "Well, that's repetition." I don't believe that to be the case because I initially had to remember the whole thing if it was going to be repetition. But yet, when I think of it, every time I sit and think about it and go through the whole episode, if you will, I get the same inner warmth welling up within me that I felt in that dimension. So I can't believe that what I experienced was a dream because I couldn't be able to bring all of that back with me here.
mhm,
So that also taught me a couple other things. Is one that time travel is irrelevant because we can go forward and backward if we want to. Maybe not physically, but we can in our energetic essence. And what I experienced attached or was imprinted, embedded upon my spirit that came back here. Now, when I was in that other dimension, I did have the sensation that I was looking at my hands, but they were translucent. It was like I was a hologram of myself. And I've thought about that, and what it means to me is that that little spark that I was that came down into this lower dimension, when I was there, it expanded. That little spark expanded into an image of what I have here but it was there so that I could recognize that it was me and not be afraid.
Hmm.
That's what it means to me. Now, the I can't explain the physics of it, if there is physics to it. But at some point, that little spark that was me, that is still within me, is still within you, and is still
Hmm.
within everyone else who is here. At some point, my soul, which I take that to be, decided it wanted to come down and experience this lower dimension. So in 1951, I made, being my essence, made the decision to get on what I call get off the energetic superhighway, took the off ramp and came down here. And I was born of my parents. I was raised by them. And now I spent almost 74 years here. And when my body uses up its energy, which it will, because it's not built to last forever, the body, the inner essence of me, that spark, that soul, will leave again and get on the on ramp of that energetic superhighway. And I'm going to go to another experience somewhere in one of those multitude dimensions. I don't
Hmm.
know what it is yet because I'm not done learning here. So once I get there, maybe I'll come back and tell you. But until that happens, I,
Do you
I'm
That's interesting. I like your concept there. I love that. That makes so much sense to me. It really
well.
does.
That's what makes sense to me. And
Yeah.
I this is going to sound kind of crass, but I don't care if anybody believes me. I hope they do because I have nothing to lie about, make falsehoods about. But it's my experience, and I'm satisfied with that because I now know what is going to happen when I cease to exist physically here. We don't die. Yeah, our bodies. Yeah, well, it it, it
I think
it
we
can't exist in
transition.
that. Yeah, it can't exist in that higher dimension.
That's right.
So when I leave, I mean, I'm going to keep going on just like everyone else is, whether they believe it or not. Their essence is going to move on, and you will learn at that point things you maybe missed learning here. And
Hmm.
so if we do, we're going to get another chance to do it in another way, in another dimension.
Hmm.
Or if we have completed our journey, perhaps we will finally merge with the God essence for all eternity, which again, stretch your mind to think how far eternity is. And if I may, consider that we are now living in eternity anyway. That's how irrelevant time is outside of our existence in
Hmm.
this planet. Think of your parents, or if they're uh, passed on, or your grandparents or great grandparents, and so on. Consider what their concept of eternity was. Would it have been something just beyond their life existence? Probably. Would it have been maybe 100 years after they had passed on? Perhaps. Well, guess what? We're here and we're living in that time they thought was eternity. So essentially, we are. It's how you want to frame it and how you want to box things in or allow it to expand to a greater understanding and a greater knowledge.
I want to step back for a few moments in the beginning of your NDE. You said that the animals noticed like something on the farm, and that was prior to you going into town. I'm wondering, did you have any inkling in that moment when the animals were like, kind of taking off and doing their thing, and you noticed that? Did you have any sort of knowing that something was coming?
No,
No.
no, I was pretty oblivious to what they were doing. I thought,
Mm.
well, this is really strange.
So you
because they
did
had never
notice something strange,
yes,
though. Yeah.
I did, but I didn't, assign any, uh, significance to it.
Do you now?
Looking oh, yeah. Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
now I do.
Mhm.
And even if I had known that they were trying to tell me something, and let me believe me, I believe that all animal species have a consciousness
That's
because I've
right.
worked with enough animals to different
Mhm.
species of animals to know that there is communication between them, and it's just something we think we're so high and mighty that we can't tune into them.
Mm.
But yeah, I didn't I didn't pay any attention to it. I did afterwards because,
I bet.
I it was really significant, but again, it never happened again. So there was something they saw in me that morning or maybe surrounding me,
Right.
perhaps an aura, uh, that I didn't recognize, but they could, and they couldn't understand it because
Mhm.
they had not seen it before either. That's I can't ask them because they're gone, but
Obviously.
That's that's my that's my understanding of what they saw. So, yeah, I just now had I known that, I don't know that it would have changed any of the things I did that morning.
Mhm.
Uh, I would have just, "Huh, okay, that's really different," and gone on from there.
Have you noticed any new creative inspirations in your writing since returning from the other side?
Um, Good question. I have, uh let me just think this out first.
No
Uh
problem. Take your time.
One of the things that I've done since then is write about things that are very important to me, not that are basically publishable or uh, earth shattering. Uh, I still like local history. I still am working on a lot of family stories and information that I has been handed down to me, and I want to provide it to a larger uh, group of my siblings and our children and grandchildren. Um, that's really what I don't have the I found I don't have the drive to be a successful writer, if you will. I mean, it
Oh.
would be nice, but
Mhm.
it's not my driving force any. Mine is to uh, recollect and recall and write about things that have happened in my life, my that I know about in my parents' life and my grandparents. I was fortunate, and I didn't mention this in the introduction. I grew up in a farmhouse that had 3 generations. My
Mm.
grandparents, my dad's parents lived with us, and my parents, and then the 6 of us kids. So I had the fortune of knowing, uh, 4 grandparents and 1 great-grandparent.
Wow.
And so I think there's something about that that I need to preserve and relate to, uh, m my the next generation, I'll put it that way, whether
Mhm.
it's our children or my brothers and sisters, their children. So they have a little better sense of their ancestor.
What I like about, these near-death stories and listening to experiences, is it really does build a digital legacy to leave behind for your family to see later on what you think, what you felt, and the experiences that you've gone through, which I find fascinating. I'm not sure others think the same way as I do, but I think one day you're gonna have, I mean, decades or I mean, generations looking back at you and knowing and learning what you've actually went through.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. I'm doing it just so people examine themselves.
Mhm.
I mean, I could be doing other things other than sitting for interviews, which I really enjoy. Uh, I appreciate the opportunity to do these. It takes time, but hey, I was given. not that I was given an assignment, but it feels like I was given a directive to get out there and explain. And I've very early on when I started doing interviews, uh, I had this sense of, well, what if nobody wants to believe it? I got over that
Mm,
very quickly because that's not the point. That becomes an ego thing,
that's
is
correct.
whether or not
Mhm,
people are going to like me or believe me. At this point, I don't care. I mean, from the standpoint of my opinion of what you think of me doesn't make any difference.
mhm.
I hope people believe it, and we could talk about why I know that because I've met what I'll call my guides. Uh, some people refer to them as angels, guardian guardian angels, whatever word resonates with a person about having a spiritual entity not do things for you, not assist you. But my understanding is that they provide an opportunity for choice. They don't make the choice. You do. I do. And we have to live with that. We can't go blaming somebody else because we made a bad choice.
Mhm.
Well, people do, but we can't really, if you think about it. So they provide an opportunity for us to make a choice. Thinking back to what I said, I had the choice of going right to go to have my tires changed or to turn left and go for a
Mhm.
workout. Now, I don't know what would have happened had I just waited at the tire place. Maybe nothing, and maybe nothing would have happened for 2 weeks. But as my doctor said, after he saw the uh, pictures of my
The
heart and the blood
X-rays, yeah.
vessels,
Mhm,
uh, he said, "Well, it was going to happen sooner or later, and more sooner than later."
mhm,
So there I had a choice, but the choice I made was to turn left to go to the fitness center, where it ended up that there was sufficient help, more than sufficient help. Now, I didn't know that when I made the choice, but it was the end result of having made that choice, and the choice was presented to me. That's the point I'm
mhm.
trying to make, that we do have opportunities for choice. And again, I do not think our guardian angels, our guides, make those choices for us, but they provide the opportunity for it to happen.
Do you
And
have you still speak with your guides? Like, do you speak with guides now? Or you feel led
yeah, well,
by guides?
it's yes, but it's not with speaking verbally.
Yes.
It's all mental, or what do you want to say, telepathy. It's
Uh,
all instantaneous interaction. Not many. Some days I just complain to them. Um, Other days I try to tell them a joke. It's, you know, the yeah, I do. And my one of the things that I did learn was that we as when we come here, we have to inhabit a dense body like we have, because that's the species we are. And we could not keep this body when we go to the
uh-huh.
eternal dimension. Yet the spirits that come here, and I think they inhabit this plane of existence all over. I don't see them. I have caught glimpse of them, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, they're there. Or people see signs. They call them signs of, oh, that was my mother's favorite color. What's it doing here? It's so out of place. Well,
Mhm.
yeah, people can take what I just said for what it's worth, but uh, they come here, but they cannot experience this dimension the same way we can. They don't have the tactile, the
Right.
emotional, the intellectual, verbal senses that we have here. They can. be around us, but again, it's not the same sensations.
Was that
So,
something new that came from your NDE? Did that come after your NDE where you really started to feel guided?
yes,
Oh,
yes.
that's excellent.
Yeah, it
So
did.
that's
I
one
mean,
thing you came back with.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and, we will take all of this with us, I mean, because it's imprinted on our soul, if you will, or
Mhm.
inner essence. Uh, just like I brought that back here. How does one explain it that I could have those sensations, bring it back here, feel that overwhelming love and warmth without it happening?
Mhm.
And so, in answer your question, uh, when I first started really delving into this, and I started out making notes because I was trying to. It was like a jigsaw puzzle. I was trying to figure it out, which is always a bit of a yeah, come and go thing. But eventually, things started to form, and then as I was working through it, I did encounter what I will call one of my guides, and it was at the first time that I recall meeting was at a workshop I went to, and I'm going to use his name and what he does. And
Mhm.
this is not a commercial endorsement, but Paul Selig is the truest clairaudient that I have ever encountered. He works with what he calls uh, the guides. Uh,
Mhm.
he's got a website, Student of the Guides, and that's where I met them. Was at a workshop,
Mhm.
and I was in the process of trying to, and this was after I had my collapse and explosion. I hadn't met them prior to that I'm aware of, but I asked, and there's a question and answer afterwards, and he tunes in to let the guides channel through him. And my question was, okay, I had this experience, explain a little bit about it. Am I supposed to write about it? And their answer was yes, yes, yes. Well, that's kind of a directive too. And
Mhm.
so I did. And when I got to the point of having written enough for it to make sense to me so that I could present it to somebody else, I did ask at another workshop about, well, this would have been a year and a half later, uh, if what I wrote was really my experience and is it true? And they said yes. I needed that answer because, for one thing, I didn't want to be deceived with what I was writing, and I didn't want to deceive somebody else
Mhm.
if
Mhm.
they saw it. And I certainly did not want to provide a false narrative of what I experienced if it wasn't true. So having that confirmation, affirmation that my experience was what it was, at least to me, maybe it's different for somebody else, but at least to me it was true. So then it was, I was able to finish it and find the words to best explain what I experienced.
And it was an incredible experience. Do you feel that your concept of death has changed since you came back? Like, and are you afraid of dying now?
Last question first. No,
Mhm.
because I've seen what counts.
And it didn't
And
even hurt, did it? You didn't have any
I'm,
pain,
you
right?
know, yeah, I got off easy. I didn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't in a car crash. I wasn't. I
Yeah.
didn't fall off a cliff. I didn't
Mhm.
lay, paralyzed for days. Yeah, I just collapsed right there, and there was enough people to jump on me and try to start my
Yeah,
heart.
you
So,
were
I really
fortunate.
did yeah, I really did get off pretty easy. What was the first part of your
Has
question?
your concept of death changed since you returned?
It's evolved. I
Oh,
mean,
good.
I had a pretty good idea prior to my collapse of, you know, there is something after. I didn't know exactly what. I couldn't formulate it. I knew, uh, there was an afterlife. I couldn't figure out why I knew that or explain what it would be with any authority, if you will. It was just what I thought it was. But I was never really afraid of dying. I had worked with animals and I had seen the beginning of their lives and I'd seen the end of it. And yeah, it's you can have a pretty calm exit or you can have a pretty traumatic exit.
Right?
But the thing is, regardless of how we blow up our bodies or run them over or just collapse, yeah, that stays behind. But there's no one, there is no one, there is nothing that can destroy our inner essence, our soul, because that is not for anybody to take away from us. And that is, to me, that is the hope. That is, as terrible as you think your life is here, it's an inconvenience, but we are all safe. We are all saved. And I'm not using that in a religious sense, but we will continue on.
Mhm.
When, and this is the way I understand it now, after looking at it. People say, or have said to me, okay, there had to be some beginning in this God source. Well, this God source, this golden energy, the divine creator has existed forever. Now, a
Mhm.
human is trying to get ahead of that and saying, well, how can God create itself? Well, just go with me here, and I think I'll be able to explain it. When I saw these sparks come out, and now realize that at some point I was one of those. I can't tell you how many lifetimes ago that was or how many dimensions I've gone through that. Not yet, I can't. But my understanding is that the God source has the potential for energy. It then creates that. That energy then has the potential to be crystallized and coalesced
Mm,
into a diamond or a spark, whatever you want to call it. But the potential creates the energy creates the spark, and the spark leaves. And once it separates from the God essence, the golden
Sphere.
glowing love, once
Mhm.
it separates, we then have free will, so that it is our soul that then is on its path to learn.
That's
And that's why
interesting.
we're here to learn.
That's right. We're in a
And
school.
yeah, and we'll take that
Mhm.
with us.
Mhm.
So again, because we're here, nobody can touch that.
Mhm.
And that's our hope, that we will continue.
I think we will. I really do. I have 2 questions left to ask you, and one of them is, if you could take anyone on Earth to that dimension where you were for 1 minute, how do you think it would change them?
Well, okay. I think there's two parts to this answer. First is that they have to be willing to let go of this existence to go there. Um, once you get over the fear of doing that, yeah, we could do that. I think it would be an eye opener, eh, which which is a whole nother concept
It seems like
because
it would create a lot more love in the world.
oh, it would have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would have
Uh,
to, but
from
I
your
don't
s
think
for
we
what
have
you explained it.
but I don't think we all have to go there to be able to create that love for everybody else. I mean,
I agree.
one of the reasons, besides learning, one of the reasons that I understand we're here is to recognize the divinity within everyone, because that's that little spark, regardless of what you think they are as a human being. Uh, we are, I don't want to say obligated, but yes, we are uh, encouraged to accept the divinity in everyone else, those we like, those we don't like, those we
Mhm.
meet, those we probably will never meet, because we're all here. We are all sparks from that golden
Mm,
love, knowledge, welcome, acceptance.
I love
And
that.
we're here to do that with others. And it's only because of our small selves, our small egos,
Mhm.
that we refuse to do that because we want more. Well,
Right?
you can have more without that attitude.
Is there one message from your experience you feel humanity needs to hear the most right now?
Death is nothing to fear, first of all. I'm not saying that I want to go tomorrow, and I'm not saying anyone should go just to have an experience of it. I mean, this this life is worth being here and experiencing. Fear and hate are human concepts. And those negative, low density concepts never get a chance to enter the higher dimension because they're of such low density. They aren't accepted there. I don't want to say banished because they never get there in the first place. Because everything, once you rise to that level, everything in that higher dimension is of God.
Mhm.
Everything in this dimension is of God. But humans have found a way to corrupt that
Absolutely.
for their own means.
That's right.
And
Mhm.
so those things, there are some answers that I don't necessarily have yet. I'm hoping to, and that's part of my learning here. But those would be things that I would want people to understand that uh, fear and hate don't exist beyond this plane.
I like that. I really do. Thank you so much, Philip. Your experience was profound. It's very unique, and I love that. I think that you're very fortunate to be able to experience what you did, and I also feel that it's such a honor for you to come here and meet with me, share space, and then let us know exactly what you felt. So taking us on basically a journey back, which I'm really pleased about. And again, thank you so much for being here with me. It's
Well,
just excellent,
thank you
just
for
excellent.
thank you for the
It's
invitation. Thank you
really
for the
beautiful.
thank you. I appreciate your
You're
kind
very
comment.
welcome. You're very, very welcome. And I feel that we're like, this is to me, to you. We're doing this together. All of us together is
Mm,
getting, helping humanity realize who they truly are. It diminishes fear. It eradicates hate. Like if we could all just learn love and work together, we would have a better world. I truly believe that. So I'm doing my part, you're doing your
mm.
part, and there are so many others doing their part. So soon we might see a better world, right?
Well, that's the hope.
Right? Philip, thank you so much for sharing your remarkable story with us today. The wisdom you've gained along the way, your journey from the heart of Wisconsin to the heart of eternity and back reminds us how extraordinary the ordinary truly can be. Thank you for your time and your insight and letting us see the world through your eyes. And to my audience, remember sometimes the most profound truths are in the quiet spaces between here and eternity. And until next time, stay open, stay curious, and keep returning to your true self.
Well, thank you, Melina. I really appreciate the opportunity to come speak with you. I appreciated the invitation, and I wish you well with
Mhm.
your podcast.
Thank you.
And because I know you're going to reach people that need to hear it, whether it's mine or someone else's.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
I appreciate your work. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.